Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about narcissistic personality disorder. As we get started, I'm just going to, for a quick disclosure, tell you why I chose NPD for this project. I chose NPD because one of my best friends in the whole wide world is currently in a relationship with someone who I believe has NPD. It is undiagnosed, and since the beginning of their relationship, I've always known that something was off about him. Their relationship has just been incredibly frustrating to watch unfold. But I also have a family member who I believe has NPD, and I've been really interested in it since my diagnostics class in my BSW program. The disorder is also really interesting to me because even after everything I already know about it, I still do not understand the people who suffer from it. And when I come across them, in real life, they completely baffle me, and I cannot seem to grasp their thought process, probably because it's incredibly different than my own. So what is NPD? NPD is one of the personality disorders included in the DSM-5. The common thread between people with all different personality disorders is that they behave in ways that is socially distressing to people around them and to themselves. And it prevents them from living a relatively normal life. But it is a real mental disorder. People who have NPD tend to have an exaggerated sense of themselves. When you hear narcissistic, that's exactly what you think about. You think of people with very large egos. They exaggerate their importance in the world and the importance in their relationships. They have a profound need for admiration. And one of the key components of NPD is that they lack the ability to empathize with other people. They can't put themselves in other people's shoes and try to understand how that person is feeling or why that person is thinking the way that they're thinking. They also, interestingly, behind their facade of self-confidence and their pedestal belief of themselves, they have actually a very low self-esteem. They are very sensitive to criticism, and their ego is very easily bruised. Now, don't get me wrong, self-love is very good. I believe people should have self-confidence and should believe in themselves and should love themselves. But people with NPD go to the extreme and they begin to belittle people, and they literally do not care about other people's feelings above their own in any situation. And it can feel good to be up on the pedestal. People with NPD, they just set themselves up high, and it can feel good to be up there, but even the slightest blemish can feel like it's on display for the world to see. Sometimes they feel like the whole world knows their secrets, and the whole world can see the blemishes in their personality and in their behavior and in their actions and things like that. So they overcompensate for these little blemishes by overestimating their importance and achievements, and they want everyone to see what they can do, or at least hear about it, because they tend to talk about themselves all the time. So who has NPD? NPD affects more men than women, and there are other personality disorders that affect more women than men. But I think this specific personality disorder affects more men than women because of traditional gender roles and how women are socialized. After all, it's simply not acceptable for women to love themselves that much in our society. Society and people put too much pressure on women for them to develop NPD and just living throughout their lives. But it usually begins to be noticed around the teen and young adult years. So, narcissistic personality disorder in the brain. It was recently discovered that the brain of someone with NPD has less gray matter in a part of the cerebral cortex that is called the left anterior insula than people with a healthy brain and without NPD. This part of the brain is thought to be involved with cognitive functioning and in the regulation of emotion. It has also been tied to the generation of compassion and empathy. Another research study found that the degree to which a person was able to exhibit empathy was tied to the volume of gray matter in the brain as a whole, not only this left anterior insula. So the biological factors of narcissistic personality disorder include, well, we don't really know. We do not know what causes it, but the current hypotheses include issues with parent-child relationships and excessive pampering, or on the other end, excessive criticism of children as they're growing up. Other hypotheses include genetics or psychobiology. The psychological factors of narcissistic personality disorder. NPD has very high comorbidity with depression and anxiety disorders. People with NPD are often not seen by professionals for their NPD until they go in for depression or anxiety disorders. And these depression and anxiety disorders often stem from perceived criticisms, rejection, and their inability to maintain their ideal self-image. The social factors of people with NPD. The social life of someone with narcissistic personality disorder is likely to be the most affected aspect of someone's life. People with NPD find it very difficult to relate with other people and often feel unfulfilled in their relationships. This is because they always feel like they're not being admired enough or complimented enough, because their need for these things is never satiated. They come across as conceited and boastful. They tend to belittle other people to make themselves feel better. And ironically, in my experience, they also tend to hold many, many superficial relationships, and the people that they're in these relationships with often describe these people as charismatic, bold, ambitious, and they tend to be positive words until someone gets in a deeper relationship and really begins to know who this person is. But if you just know them superficially, they seem like awesome people that you would aspire to be like. But in reality, if you get into a deeper relationship with these people, it's very different. So life challenges for people with narcissistic personality disorder often include drug and alcohol abuse and suicidal thoughts and behaviors. As far as the drug and alcohol abuse, I know people personally who I believe have narcissistic personality disorder, and this has been a huge component in their life. And so it is something that I have seen personally as far as the comorbidity of drug and alcohol abuse with NPD. The role of social workers in interventions for people with narcissistic personality disorder. The treatment for people with NPD is talk therapy. There's not really any medication. They can take medication for the depression and anxiety, but as far as actually treating narcissistic behaviors, there isn't really a treatment for that. The purpose of talk therapy for people with NPD is not to cure them of their NPD, but it's to help them relate better with others. This helps alleviate some of their issues in their social life. It helps people to understand their disorder and why they feel the emotions that they feel. But like with all other personality disorders, NPD is very difficult to treat. This is because changing someone's personality traits takes a very long time, and even after all this time spent, it still may never happen. It's more realistic to teach people with narcissistic personality disorder to accept responsibility in their relationships, tolerate criticism, understand their feelings and the feelings of others, and understand what is realistic and attainable rather than what is ideal in obsessions with perfection. And here are my references. Please let me know if you guys have any questions. I love this topic, but I can't begin to try to understand it completely. So I'll see you all in class. Thanks.